session entitled Using Social Media for the Causes of Life. This will be presented by Brother Paul O'Donnell and Bobby Schindler. Brother Paul O'Donnell has served in leadership of the Franciscan Brothers of Peace of the Archdiocese of St. Paul and Minneapolis since 1998. The Franciscan Brothers of Peace originated with the Catholic Right to Life movement and considered the promotion of the gospel of life to be their primary and central purpose. Brother Paul received his bachelor's degree in communication from the University of St. Thomas in 1982. Brother Paul was a primary caregiver to Brother Michael Gaworski, their severely disabled founder, for over 12 years until Brother Michael's death on August 28, 2003. Because of their own experience, Brother Paul and the Franciscan Brothers of Peace were at the forefront of the battle to save the life of Terry Schindler-Schiavo, speaking out on her behalf and offering spiritual guidance to the Schindler family. Bobby Schindler is the Executive Director of the Terry Schiavo Life and Home Network, which works to protect the lives of the medically vulnerable and disabled from the threat of euthanasia. He was born and raised just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with his sisters Terry and Suzanne. Following Terry's tragic death on March 31st, 2005, Mr. Schindler gave up his teaching job at Tampa Catholic High School. In the 5 years since that time, he has spoken extensively throughout the United States and internationally, telling the truth about Terry's story. Welcome.
Thank you. I might just hold this because it might be easier and you might be able to hear me better. It's an honor for Bobby and myself to be here with you today, and thank you for the strong and faithful. We know this is coming to the conclusion of the convention, but we feel this message is very important for this day and age in the Right to Life movement. A few years ago, I was attending a youth summer camp for pro-life youth leaders in Wisconsin. And in between sessions, I noticed that all the kids were picking up their cell phones and their different devices and their laptops, and they were all constantly writing. And I was very enthralled with what they were doing. And of course, this was their Facebook and their emails. And so they said, Brother Paul, you really should be on Facebook. And I said, what would I do on Facebook? And so I decided, because I was going to be doing these summer camps, and part of one of my ministries, aside from what I do at Terry's Life, Hope, and Network, is to help train our future generation and work with young people. So I thought, okay, I'll try out Facebook. So I went on Facebook, and I got an account, and I went on, and I froze. I didn't know what to do, so it sat there for 6 months. Now, I didn't know at that time, anybody that knew me that was on there was sending messages, will you be my friend, will you be my friend? And of course, for 6 months, they didn't hear from me. Well, finally, I figured it out, and I got on. Some people thought I rejected them, that I didn't want them on my Facebook site. But I did start to build a social network that went from actually 2 people that came on right away to now about 5,000. Now, with the 5,000 people that are on my site, according to Facebook, over 950,000 people, if my friends and their friends, it's a social network that I, one person, have the potential of reaching that many people. So I started using Facebook primarily, and YouTube in promoting vocations, the Right to Life message, posting educational videos on the unborn child, the work we were doing with Terry Schiavo's Life and Hope Network, and educating people about how to use this. It became a tool to advertise events, pro-life events, It was a way to start causes. There's an ability to promote a cause. And there are causes to stop abortion now. There are causes to stop euthanasia. Terry's Life and Hope Network has a cause. And in a short period of time, in Terry's cause, there's over 4,000 people that are on that particular cause list. And so it became a way to promote events. And then I started surfing the internet, and Bobby's going to talk about some things concerning web pages and different things you can do. But I started surfing the internet, and I started coming across stories. And I couldn't believe what I was reading. I came across a woman, and it was basically a love story out of the Atlanta Constitutional Journal. A young woman had, on her wedding day, a headache. She collapsed, and it was discovered she had a brain tumor. And this was on her wedding day. They took her into surgery. They removed most of the tumor, but not all of it. But they said that it probably was terminal. But the surgery caused some complications, and they said that she was in a so-called persistent vegetative state. And her husband decided that she would not want to live that way, and so they decided to remove all food and hydration. When I stumbled upon the story, she had already been 36 days without any food or hydration. 36 days. I couldn't believe that. I didn't think that was possible. Until later, I researched and found out that probably the longest person that's gone without food and hydration was Bobby Sands during the Irish hunger strikes. He went 56 days. And I thought, oh my gosh. So through Facebook, there's a way you can private message people. And I private messaged the husband, offering help, saying I could tell, I think he cared about his wife, and I said I would be willing to help. And that if she has gone 36 days, maybe she's trying to tell you something. Because what you say when you're fine and healthy could be a lot different than once you're in that situation. And we know stories, we know people that have had their feeding tubes removed and were begging for food, but they couldn't express that. I also started to educate people. I realized that we may not be able to save this woman's life after 36 days, but absolutely no one knew what was going on. So I started posting, and I feel sorry for some of my friends on Facebook because I don't post just once or twice. They were getting like 10 posts a day from me. And it was saying the reality of this. And all I was asking for is prayers, and that I felt that the Right to Life movement should be speaking out on this, that this is not love and compassion. And trickling in, people began to give their support. But day 36 went into day 46, and day 46 went into day 50, and day 50 went into day 56. 56 days, and then she passed away. And this was a love story. And even when we got on Facebook and were informing people, and if you Google it now, you can even see some of the articles I wrote and other people wrote, is we educated people, she's not dying of cancer. She's being starved and dehydrated to death. And so we knew there was probably we would not be able to save her life, but we felt we could use that to educate. And we were respectful, and we didn't escalate the situation, but we certainly informed people. And this went on radio and television and blog sites, all because, and I don't want it to sound like I'm tooting my own horn here, but all because I stumbled upon it, just stumbled upon it. Another case that I'd like to talk about a little bit more in detail is the baby Joseph Marachlik case. I was just, I do my work that I'm required to do as a brother, and then I take 2 minutes and go to Facebook, and then I go back to my work, and then I check my emails, and then I go back to my work. And so I was just kind of checking news stories, and all of a sudden, I saw this story about baby Joseph Mirachley. Baby Joseph was a 13, or is, he's 16 months old now, but he was a 13-month-old baby. He had a degenerative neurological condition. His parents wanted to bring him home to live until he would probably die. He had a condition that most likely would take his life. He was on a ventilator, so they wanted him weaned off the ventilator. They had had a previous child, a daughter, that had a similar neurological condition, and they did the exact same thing. They performed the tracheotomy, which was a simple procedure, weaned their daughter off the ventilator and brought her home, and she lived with them for 18 months before she died. They wanted to do this for their son. The hospital said no. The hospital said that this life was not worth preserving. And I'm not making up words in pro-life rhetoric. This is what they said, that all attempts were futile, that it would be a waste of resources, and they said that this would not be a very good quality of life, and that we do not see this as palliative care, and we're not going to do this. Well, the parents decided they could not accept this. So this was taking place in Canada at the London Health Science Centre. And in Canada, they have a different healthcare system. And so when the hospital decides they are no longer going to treat, they have a consent and capacity board. This is a government board. This is part of the bureaucracy. And all cases go to that board. And the board decides whether that person receives treatment or does not. The consent and capacity board ruled against the family, saying that it was in the best interest of the child to remove the ventilator. Now, the family did not want to do this because you remove the ventilator and a child with this condition would choke, would possibly struggle, and be in discomfort. So they said they would give the baby something to relax him and cause his organs to shut down and he'd feel no pain. Well, to me, that's like a lethal injection, and then you remove the tube. So the parents absolutely refused. Then they went to court, and the equivalent of the Canadian Supreme Court ruled against the family, siding with the hospital. Even though the judge, if she was a woman, was crying and said her heart went out to this baby, it was in the best interest of the child to remove the ventilator. She decided to give, this was on a Friday, so she decided that she would give the family the weekend to say their goodbyes. And so on Monday, which was February 21st of this year, which is Family Day in Canada. Now that's a national holiday where you have picnics and parties and you celebrate having kids and family. At 10 a.m. on Family Day, baby Joseph was going to be ordered to have his ventilator removed against the wishes of his parents. Now, unlike here in the United States, the parents were stripped of all their parental rights, so they could not stop this from happening. There is a guardian ad litem that's appointed, and again, this is an official, like you have a Secretary of State, there's an official person that executes this order. And even if the parents protest, that person is bound by Canadian law to carry out the death sentence. So on Family Day, baby Joseph was scheduled to be killed. I happened to be surfing the internet, and on February 17th, come across this story. And I think, where are people? We have pro-lifers in Canada. I know we do. I have friends in Canada. Where's the pro-lifers here in the United States? How how is it that nobody knew about this child? No one knew what was going on. Well, there are a few reasons, because on one hand, there were particular groups that did not want right-to-life people involved, because they felt if the right-to-life people got involved, it would be another Terry Schiavo case. And they didn't want right-to-life people involved because there's this hostility sometimes between disability rights people and the right-to-life people, and that should never be, but that's the truth of the situation. So the right-to-life people were not involved in this in the beginning. And I decided through Facebook to contact the father. And I said, can I talk to you? Can I help you? And unlike the Tricia DeGoy story, the first story I told you, this father said yes. And so we started communicating, and he invited us to go to Canada. He wanted me to go in and pray with his son and to be with his son, but I was not prevented to do that. Because by the time I did get to Canada, through Facebook, we started a massive, massive campaign. The first thing we did is we started a Facebook page, and this was a site page, and it went from 4 to almost 16,000 people that were following this case. That caused the London Free Press to take notice that so many people were commenting upon this situation. And some people may not know it, but even if you're on Facebook, a lot of times you think what you're saying is private. Everything I wrote about the London Health Science Center was made all over the world. People could see it, and it's there forever and ever and ever. So when you do use social media, you have to know what you're saying and be correct and be factual, or it could come back to haunt you. But I said exactly what was happening, that this hospital was going to kill this child on Family Day unless we take action. Now, there was some pro-life media that started to report on this, but it just sat there. No one was doing anything. So what we did is take that contact information, and like I said, I posted probably 10, 20 times a day urging people. And then we started getting media calls and went on Relevant Catholic Radio. And the hospital was forced to violate some Canadian laws on privacy to deal with what they said the problem of social media. In other words, they may have the mainstream media in their hands, but they could not control the images, the pictures, the posting, the story, and the grassroots people that were getting involved. And they admitted to the London Free Press that they were receiving tens and thousands of emails and phone calls. Now, they said it was from hateful, harassing people, but they were getting these calls. Finally, we thought we were going to make some progress. And I'll let Bobby share his part of the story. But something happened that this hospital was starting to dig their heels in. And I really thought it was a deja vu experience, that I was going to be reliving what I relived with the family of Terry Schiavo. And that in the end, this baby was going to be killed. And I realized it's not always about saving lives. Sometimes it's just about doing the right thing. Even if you have to stand at the foot of the cross or the foot of somebody's bed, you do what's right no matter what the results are. So I decided I would be involved. Other people started getting involved. It started having a snowball effect. And certain pro-life groups started coming forward. Priests for Life came forward and made the offer to cover the transportation costs, the medical costs, for the baby to come to the United States, be treated, receive the trach, and go home and let God decide when that baby dies. We also, behind the scenes, were dealing with hospitals. We were calling any children's hospital we could think of, and we contacted probably 12 to 15 hospitals. In the end, we only had 2 that were willing to accept this baby, and it was decided that Cardinal Glennon in St. Louis, Missouri would be the best facility. But even when you had the generous offer to pay the transportation cost, to cover all the medical expenses, and to take care of this family so they can come to the United States, get their treatment, and go home, the hospital was not cooperating. They said that this was in the best interest, and they were forcing the parents into a desperate situation. They couldn't leave their child. One of them had to stay at that child's bedside every moment. We started some prayer rallies. We started going there. We were starting to speak in the media, and of course the Facebook and the YouTube and the videos. YouTube was a tremendous help because we could take, now we had to sneak this in, but the family, because there were security guards in the room, so the mother and father could not visit or pray with their child without security guards watching them. But one of the aunts snuck in a cell phone and recorded baby Joseph so that we could put that on YouTube and show people who the Canada healthcare system was going to kill. The sad reality is, in this hospital, when baby Joseph was there, there were 3 other babies that the family watched die. It's a different hospital setting. It would be more like an American emergency room where you have many, many beds and they're all just divided by curtains. So while they were standing by their child's life trying to save that child, other parents succumbed to pressures of the hospital to kill their child. The mother of baby Joseph Mirachley was there one day with Joseph, and the lead physician came up and said, you know, many families disagree with us, but we, meaning the hospital, always win. They didn't win with this one. The public pressure got so bad. It went to Ireland, it went to Italy, it started magnifying, and they were basically forced to let this baby go. The baby was transferred to the United States, received the tracheotomy. Everything they said about this baby's health condition was proved wrong for the most part. He had the ventilator removed. He was weaned off of that within one day after the tracheotomy procedure. We didn't release that public. This hospital, you know, that's the other thing, is you have to use media very wisely. We decided we weren't going to release that he was off the ventilator and going home until the very day he was going home. And he did go home on Holy Thursday. Oh, wow. And today he is at home. He does have a neurological condition, but his lungs are growing, he is growing, he's breathing on his own. He requires no extra oxygen, no nebulizers. He requires no antibiotics. He's never had a pneumonia or a lung infection, which is amazing if you have somebody that, you know, was on a ventilator and you're prone to lung disease. There's more about that story, but the last thing is the hospital said this wasn't normal palliative care, and we refuted that. And Fox News and CNN started getting involved, and the Fox News analyst finally, he described it. The Fox News analyst, who was an MD, said that the tracheotomy was designed and is done to provide comfort. And by doing that and allowing the ventilator to be down the trach rather than the nose, relieved baby Joseph of a lot of pain that he was enduring. And they did see it as normal, reasonable palliative care. So Joseph is at home. And why did that happen? Again, it's not tooting my own horn. It's saying it became public pressure. Other factors came into force that Bobby will share. But the fact is, it all started from somebody getting online and doing this. There are all kinds of opportunities to use social media. There are webcasts, and I don't know if you were following the whole situation with Lila Rose and her exposés of Planned Parenthood and their funding. They had unedited videos, and they had webcasts, and they showed how this was done. I got a notice from Lila Rose on February 11th. I think it was the day Congress was going to vote on or a hearing about funding Planned Parenthood, and they said, we want everybody on Valentine's Day to go out and pray for this, for the funding of Planned Parenthood. And I'm a pro-life organizer, and I'm a pretty good organizer, but to tell me to do something on February 14th when it's February 11th, and it was a weekend, I thought, how can I get a group of people organized? How can I do this? We had about 50, 60 people out just by promoting it, and it happened in over 240 cities. There were thousands and thousands of pro-lifers out that day, and the only communication came through Facebook. So it's a powerful, powerful tool, and I don't know how many of you are on Facebook. Okay. And now there are some people that I call that are moderate users. I'm an obsessive user. I don't expect anybody to do what I do. But you need to utilize that tool. And this is a whole new day and age in the Right to Life movement. Things that we knew about. Telephone book, that's going to be a thing of the past so soon. How many of you use an encyclopedia today? Thing of the past. It's even been discovered that most people are not using email anymore. Facebook has gone beyond AOL. So if we're going to promote our message into the future, we need to use these tools. At the conclusion, after Bobby speaks, I have a little video that I want to show you so you can meet baby Joseph and see him today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bobby.
I don't like holding the mic, so thank you, brother. Brother's absolutely right, and he really spoke about specifics about Facebook with the Tricia case and the baby Joseph case, and I wanted to speak more in general terms, just about social media. But it was the baby Joseph case for me that I realized for the first time just how powerful it can be and how many people you can reach, and just the tremendous amount of pressure it enables you to put on a facility, as it did with the Canadian hospital. And I firmly believe that if it wasn't for Facebook, that I don't know if it would have been successful in saving baby Joseph's life. It certainly had its hand in it, and I often wonder, although even with Terry's case making as much publicity as that case did, I often wonder what would have happened if we did have Facebook at that time, and how many more people we would have reached, and how much more pressure we could have put on the people that were behind trying to kill my sister. It was interesting. There was a lot of differences going on as far as putting pressure on the hospital between many of the pro-life groups and people, and actually the people at the time helping the baby Joseph family. Because we firmly believe that putting pressure on the hospital was the only way to really go about having any chance of saving baby Joseph's life. While others believe that you don't want to upset the hospital by putting all this pressure on them. And by that time, there was so many people involved, and the pro-life groups were getting involved, it really became a life of its own, and the pressure just grew and grew. And fortunately, we, meaning the pro-life groups and the people involved, were right, that the pressure got too much for the hospital, and they eventually gave in and released the baby. So again, it's a wonderful way of reaching out to people, and it also, the way I use it, as Brother said, he uses his, I'm probably somewhere in the middle on my Facebook page. Mine is used, and I talk to my friends all the time that don't have Facebook pages yet, and they're like, I don't want to get involved in that stuff. And I think that's a ridiculous position to take, especially nowadays, especially if you have a business, because you don't have to make, although it's a personal website, you don't have to make it very personal. In fact, I use mine primarily for our organization, for the Terry Shiver Life and Hope Network. And what I do is people that come to my Facebook, I draw them back to our website because obviously we have on our website. And if you have a business, it's a great tool to use, a great vehicle to use to drive people to your website, or even to the location, if you, whatever type of business you have, to drive them to your business in whatever way that might be. And that's what I use mine for. I post stories on my Facebook page that drives people to the website, because ultimately my website, our website, is where I want people to go, because that's where they can really get involved with our cause, although they can also go to, I also have a Facebook group. Let's call it a group. There's other types of pages you can set up on your Facebook. I have a Facebook group for Terry Shiver's Life and Hope Network as well. And again, it's really strictly up to you on how personal you want to make your Facebook page. You can keep it very general. You don't have to put pictures on it or anything like that if you choose not to. You can use it strictly for business purposes or pro-life purposes, whatever you choose to use it for. But that's the way I use it from myself. I use it primarily to get people to go to our website. And websites are still, even though it seems that Facebook is becoming more and more popular every day, I believe it's still important to have websites, because websites function a little differently than a Facebook page. And again, I've seen, since I've been getting more involved on my Facebook page, as far as driving people to my website, I've seen, and I can follow my website numbers, I've seen my website numbers slowly increase. And again, that amounts to people following your cause, to people getting involved with what you're doing. So to all those that are perhaps or somehow are reluctant to getting involved with Facebook, I really would urge you to think about it, go on and look at really all the positives that come from Facebook. Now, it can be used, obviously, just like anything on the internet or anything really in life. It can be used for good, it can be used for bad. I've seen some horrible pages set up that depict my sister in a very bad way, where they make fun of her. They have pages dedicated to her that simply are offensive. And I try to get them removed, email Facebook and ask them to remove it, and they don't. So again, it is upsetting when you see people use something like that to really make fun of others or somehow use it in a way that's derogatory, and it happens. But I think for the most part, Facebook is used primarily for a good thing. I think people often get too personal, quite honestly, on some of their Facebook pages, because as Brother said, once it goes on Facebook and on the internet, it's out there forever. And I think Anthony Weiner could be a good example of that, because anything you put out there is going to be there forever. And still to this day, I can't believe someone would put pictures like that of himself, not knowing just that. But I'm very conscious of that. Even emails that I send, we were just talking about this the other day. Emails that we send on Facebook, emails that you send on a personal account. I always read them, and I say to myself, okay, what if everybody in the world could read my email? Am I okay with what I'm sending? And before I hit that send button. So you have to be it comes with caution with Facebook. But back to these cases, I think in the pro-life movement, it's very important. It's a very important and vital tool. And it's really the way that I came to know the Baby Joseph case, because somebody actually put a story on my Facebook page about getting involved in it, and that's how it kind of started for myself. So yes, this day and age, things are changing every day, as far as technology, as far as the internet. We didn't have Facebook, what, 10 years ago? I don't know exactly when it began, but who knows what they're going to come up with. And we have tweeting now, and that's getting more and more popular. Something I haven't started yet, but I'm seriously looking into starting to tweet, because again, you can reach people instantaneously. In some ways, I have to laugh, because these Facebook tweeting, texting, emailing from your phone. In some ways, it's supposed to make your life, I guess, easier because you can reach people at any and communicate with people at any given time. But I think it really just adds a lot more pressure on your life because people know and can reach you at any moment, and sometimes that can be not a good thing. But nevertheless, it is the age we live in. Again, I think it comes with a certain amount of caution, but I do think it's something that you can use only to increase your visibility. In the case of Baby Joseph, it could literally save lives. It gets the truth out. And I still, even though Terry's been gone now for 6 years, I still use our Facebook page to get the truth out about my sister and this issue. So it's a wonderful vehicle, and I'm really open-minded to it, to using it in any way we can, particularly when it comes to help saving lives like it did in the Baby Joseph case. So that's all I really have, and I'll hand it back to Brother Paul. So thank you for being here today.
Just a few comments before I show this brief video of Baby Joseph. First of all, Father Pavone came into the room. We already talked about you and Priest for Life, but thank you for everything you did for Baby Joseph. And it's a remarkable story. Father also is on Facebook and has several sites. And most pro-life organizations, National Right to Life, Priest for Life, many, many organizations use Facebook, use YouTube. It's a powerful way. And even if you put a video like on YouTube, and let's say you only get 200 or 300 hits, that doesn't mean that it only gets to 200 or 300 people. The surprising story for me with the Baby Joseph case is that when I was in the room with his father, and his father said, "Oh, Brother Paul, will you know, when I prayed with Baby Joseph, I always sang." And he said, "Could I record you singing?" So he did this video of me singing and praying with Baby Joseph. Well, it didn't go anywhere on YouTube, but all of a sudden it was the major picture on a Fox exclusive story about Baby Joseph. And that was, I believe, maybe the day or the day after he came home. And again, Father Pavone and Baby Joseph's father was on that segment. So an image or something you put on or anything, you never know what's going to happen with it. And so don't be discouraged if you put something on and you say, "Oh, not too many people are watching it." It's a powerful tool, and remember, even if you change one heart or one mind. I've gotten, again, it's the most recent case with Baby Joseph, but people were telling me and following, you know, and again, I'm not just saying this because you walked in the room, Father, but people would say, what you and Father Pavone are doing gives me such great hope. I totally changed my perspective. I'm on fire for this now. So people came and came to the effort. And it's a way to rally the troops. It's also exactly what it says. It's social networking. I know what pro-life leaders are doing generally all over the country. Whether that is, obviously I know what's going on with this organization, but whether it's Joe Scheidler's group, Pro-Life Action League, or whether it's American Life League, or whether it's National Right to Life, or whether it's Priest for Life, it's a way, I would guess that there's probably 300 to 400 pro-life activist leaders that are all on my Facebook site. So it is a way to know what other groups are doing and to stay connected. And part of our movement, it is a family. And there's things that you get to know about each other that you would never know about this person. For example, I founded an organization, Pro-Life Action Ministries. When I left the organization 27 years ago, a good friend of mine, Brian Gibson, who's the current executive director there, took over. It wasn't until I got on Facebook that I really saw what a great dad this guy was. I knew he had kids, but he took his son, I think 17-year-old son, like on a 2-week rugged Boy Scout camping trip. His son's an Eagle Scout, And I wouldn't go on a trip like that with teenagers no matter how much I loved them for anything. And I got to know things. And I think that's very important to see the Reverend Pat Mahoney. I won't tell too much personal stuff, but very active in the pro-life movement. But I've known him for 30-some years. I got to know him in a whole different way. And so it is a force that can be used for good. And it is exactly what it is, social networking. And it's important, and it's going to be a very useful tool. We will have some time for questions. The DVD I'm going to show is very crude. It's not a great production thing. But before we show it, I basically did this as something I put on the private family site. And it was a way to thank all those people who came and supported baby Joseph, whether that was in prayer and deed. And I thought, what would baby Joseph say to those people if he could? Now, obviously, at the time, he was a 13-month-old baby or 14-month-old baby by that time. And a 14-month-old baby is not going to say certain things to us. But I believe that God ministers to the human person and the soul where they're at. And I thought, what would he say? And the words came to me, thank you for loving me. So I went on Google and I just said, thank you for loving me. Or I went on YouTube and said, thank you for loving me.